start with a question about when you arrived here, where you came from, when you arrived here, how old were you when you came here? But I'll ask you all these questions, so you don't have to remember this now, all the things to say. I'm going to prompt you.
I have 3 birth dates, you know what I'm talking? And I go on the 31, 1930, but my true is 28. So I've been talking about 10 to 15, and it's really maybe 11 and a half or 12 to 17. So I'll try to use the extra year to the true one that I have, and that I had someone to show up.
Okay.
But anyways,
we can start.
I don't
we'll
think
start.
people...
We'll start. Today is May 4th, 2019. We're here in the MAJDANEK memorial site, the city of Lublin. My name is Karen Jungblut, and I'm here to interview Max Glauben, a survivor of the Holocaust from Dallas. Max, may I ask you first, when did you arrive here in MAJDANEK?
I arrived here, and truthfully, through hindsight, we were one of the first transports from Warsaw, Poland, in May of 1943. Until then, most of the transport went to Treblinka. I don't know why, but I was always said there was a fluke of the train arriving here. For one reason or another, they might have had some trouble with Treblinka, with either an uprising or whatever. So we arrived here.
Who was with you when you arrived here?
My mom, Fela Glauben, or Feiga Glauben, my little brother Henrik, my father Isaac, and myself. Also, 2 of my father's aunts that survived and found me in Dallas, Texas, 42 years after the Holocaust, after I went for a groundbreaking of the now existent U.S. Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. Then some other relatives. My grandfather committed suicide in the Warsaw Ghetto, and I, as a young man, discovered that he hung himself on the door when I was bringing some food to him that my mom cooked in the Warsaw Ghetto. Then my mom's sister, that was a little bit younger, named Sala, was picked up by the Germans and never returned. And we figured or realized what has happened. But I had some uncles. My father had 8 siblings.
That all arrived here?
No, some of them went to Russia, and I know 1 or 2 were deceased outside because some of the people acted as guides and were living in Warsaw. They would take you money and tell you, I'm going to take you over the border to Russia so you would survive. But contrary to that, they would take him to the border and leave him there. Then the Germans would discover him, and some of the people that were lucky enough to get back into the ghetto would tell us the story on that. But there were many other relatives. But to be truthful, when you're 12 or 13 years old, when you get here, you don't know how many relatives you have because people get married and so forth. But I know there was a big group, and when you load it on the boxcars, they block off a group and get you on there, and no platform on the boxcar, but a 4x2 plywood that has pieces of wood like you put on the bottom between the floor and the wall. It's either 1x1 or just trim. The wood trim is only in about 3 or 4 places. If you were pushed on the 4x8, it's on a 45-degree angle and you slide back. Well, these things would stop you from sliding back. Then sometimes you shove it with a bayonet or with a dog barking at you and make you go up there. So when they would group off, if there were members of your family that were not being able to put on a boxcar with 100, because at least 100 went on the standing room only. So you don't know how many were really on that boxcar close to us, because when you offload it, you usually come off as the thing. But there were many relatives, because we all at the time, the ghetto was reduced from 20-some gates to only 15 gates. So everybody that might have been scattered there negotiated with others to switch. So we were pretty close together when we got to the Umschlagplatz, where we were being loaded. But then the loading was just not by tickets or whatever, it was by turmoil.
When you then arrived here, do you remember the moment when the doors opened?
Well, I remember a panic, because if you if you were held in a small area, standing room only, and there's such a thing that I remember that some people, when they were expired on there, they would slide down. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And if a body lies there, you cannot move. So when the doors open, everybody wants to go out because they think they're going someplace. They don't know where they're going. Do you understand? That's why I said panic. There's no siding here, so they jump off. After 5 days, no nutrition, living in the ghetto, no nutrition, corpses, try to jump off with brittle bones. So you have people, that's the situation.
Do you remember, did you jump off?
I had to jump off, that's the only way you couldn't get off. And they didn't care if you lived or not, you know. Now, some people step right all over you and maybe push you over for their survival, but then others, when they pick you up and see if you still can walk or not. And this is why we say we are all created equal, but sometimes we are different inside.
When you arrived, did you know where you were going? Did you know?
Absolutely not. But in some cases, we were promised a better life and a better place. And the only way that we knew, and with my mom and my dad, was hearsay from people that were either hoping or that were heard it from somebody else, that, you know, we're going to someplace else, maybe, you know. And there was some, and I don't know whether it was there that I heard that or not, but there were some people that escaped from a train or from a place. And I remember that they said that some of the Germans, while they were loading them, would say, why don't you give me all the money and we'll see that the train goes to a good place. So they were collecting money for us to come to the gas chambers of either this one. Now, the two were basically from Warsaw. But regardless of what happens, there were some people that were able to escape. But the positions that these people had were either capos or somebody that was either, that had to either volunteer, like in Warsaw, they had to volunteer, because during the building of the Warsaw Ghetto, there was a typhoid epidemic. The Germans created a city council called Judenrat and appointed 2,000 Jewish capos to do the dirty work for them, and they were volunteers. And I remember there was some that said, I don't want to volunteer for that. So we registered in certain areas at the beginning, and they said it will improve your lifestyle by making your life better. But it was a lie. They used it later on to kill us. So when these guys said, I don't want to volunteer, he says, you registered. I know where your mom is. I know where your dad is. I know where your sibling is. You don't volunteer. You go home to them and we'll destroy you all.
So you hadn't heard of, have you heard of MAJDANEK before you came here?
No. To be truthful, I never knew that I was in MAJDANEK because the train stopped in Lublin, and I looked through the little hole because there were two windows on either side with bars, and some of them had barbed wire because somebody tore off the thing. When I saw Lublin, I thought it was in Lublin. But after we stayed here for a while, the people said MAJDANEK. I didn't even know how to spell it.
So what did you see the first time when you think about it, if you can remember, when you came out of the boxcar? What did you see?
I saw a field. I saw the field with portable buildings.
Around here?
Around here, all around here, because they had up to 5,000 people. And there were not enough room in just the barracks, and until they were processed, they couldn't be placed there. So like I say, it was stalls, portable buildings. Now some of the portable buildings were used for the selection. And I remember laying face down on either was aluminum or steel floor that was with the wind the way it's blown here, and with, I don't remember, snow, but still cold, and no pillows, no blankets, and our clothing was practically wore out because we wore it for 3 years and no place where to buy or replace it. And my brother and I, during the typhoid, we had both typhoid, but that was so early that our, I can't get the word out, but was enough to be able to cure it. immunity. Our immunity was still, and
Were you lying with your brother on the sleds?
no, because he went with my mom.
So what happened? How did that work?
When we were marching, there were stations of Germans that had requisition, evidently, for human bodies, either for the medical experiments or for other concentration camps that used the people that were there for slave labor. And when we were chosen to Budzin, was the concentration camp that was built next to a Heinkel aircraft factory. So once the selection was there, they took you away, put you in the portable building or in confinement, made you lay down with the face down so you wouldn't resist or try to do anything. And then my mom and my little brother and the rest of my family proceeded as the ones to be selected to go into the gas chamber area.
So was it your father and you that went into?
My father was selected for work. I was going after my mom. My dad grabbed my hand, say, "Stay with me." And the Germans allowed it. Then we were put in the portable building and then stayed here until they found the camp that I imagine they were distributing us. And I think that camp was on the house was maybe Plaszow. Because when I went to Flossenburg, they said Plaszow. But I know that we went through Plaszow later on because I can tell you the whole story, but we'll do it later.
So when you then arrived, it was chaos. What else did you hear? Did you hear anything else?
Screams of people, cries of people, people that become absolutely nuts and didn't know what they were doing. There were
Was
people
this
that
building
were
here?
praying. Yes.
And what was happening in this building?
I think the commander lived there, and they wouldn't come out to see all the turmoil or whatever, at least not at the time. But there was some music playing, but by that time we were so brainwashed that you didn't know what kind of music, and it was just like going into a restaurant and there's a background and you didn't know that it was music. But I am a hummer, and I disclosed it just recently when I gave my testimony. When I was riding on the boxcar, I'm a hummer. And you know how the wheels turn on the rails, and there are cracks in the rails. So when you ride, it goes cluck, 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 cluck. And I was humming to the rhythm of the train. And that goes to show you that music is the greatest, and visual aids are the greatest things. And in fact, songs are the things that help me to learn how I speak English. But songs, right now, I remember songs that were sung in the Warsaw Ghetto, and I sang one yesterday, and I was going to sing it with the cantor, the top cantor of Israel, and I befriended him, his father and his mother, and his mother said, she told me afterwards, "You see this short guy? He's much shorter than my son, but he says somebody special when he's talking to him."
So when we were walking here before, I heard you humming.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
don't
what
know
you?
what I'm humming. I don't know what I'm humming. And I was humming yesterday. We say a special prayer for high holidays called Hallel. And I sing la da 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 dum, La da 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 dum. Da 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 dum. Dum dum dum. And I was humming that all day long, but I didn't know. And when I came to the cantor, he said, "What are you humming?" I said, "I don't know." But I said, "Let me stop for a minute. Let me
Listen.
refrain." I do it subconsciously at home, and
So you said you were known as a hummer. Were you done humming when you were here in MAJDANEK?
yeah, all through my stay in concentration camp, it's just a part of me, and I know every singer, the old singers, not the new ones. You know, Pericoma and all that.
So when you were, how long were you here in MAJDANEK?
I cannot truthfully tell you because we didn't have any watches. We didn't know what year it was. My father was killed in the camp 3 weeks later when he was taken as a hostage for something that never did happen, that people were missing. So they took 10 people for each one that was missing. And then I got up on a Friday, they let him down Friday evening in Budzin on the Appel Square where we were counted. And when I got up Saturday morning, his body with some others was gone where I saw him laying in the evening with his face down, but only his shoes were there and other shoes of people that were lying in the place where they were lying, only their shoes left. And that's how I found out that I was orphaned in 1943.
Where did you, when you were here in MAJDANEK, where did you stay? Did you stay in this area or did you go somewhere else?
No, I was staying on the inside, but I cannot truthfully tell you where, how, and when. All I know that I was always lying on the floor of something without any proper facilities, not even bunks, just like, and sometimes if they took a group of 20, you might have wanted to lay close to somebody for warmth, and sometimes to a stranger. In my case, with my father, but he could only help me on one side.
The moment when you arrived and you were separated from your mother and your brother,
Yeah.
do you remember that moment? Was that a moment where you remember it was a separation, or
It was a marching separation. Now I want to tell you that thank God for my memories like that. But lack of nutrition, lack of facilities that are necessary to sustain proper life brainwash you. You become an island of yourself, and all you worry about survival. What's the first survival? Something to put into your mouth. When you get a situation, when you're offloaded like that, to get away from it, escape. No escape. Then you try to start thinking egoistically. What I'm describing to you is a 91-year-old in the body of a 14-year-old with the experience between 14 and 90. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you need a Kleenex?
No, it's the wind actually, but yes, it's very touching. It's very very touching.
And I
It's-
am
it's
really
history.
glad without an education. And
We're
I'd
done.
say 1,000% that God has put all this in there, and how I can really close my eyes and also go back